is our very first official IFAST
Yes.
podcast. It's like only 11 years.
11 years in the making, right?
11 years in.
14 if you count how long we've known each
We
other.
decided we're going to actually have a conversation
Yes.
between the two of us. So people probably think that we spend all of our time together, and we don't.
We don't.
We're like two ships passing in the night because of the way that our schedules work. But
I was literally thinking that same phrase at the same time.
Yes, it is kind of funny. But and obviously we talk and communicate. But I think that 11 years in, we've obviously made a lot of mistakes, and we've done some really good things, and I think that now we can bring some value to some other people.
For sure.
That was my intent with putting this together, and literally we start with our story, because I think
Yes.
that a lot of people have a misperception as to how you would start a business like this, because they see where we are 11 years into it, and then they have no idea. Like, nobody knew who we were.
Right.
I mean, people knew who you were.
Barely.
Well, but you had a very big following in T Nation.
That's true.
For a really long time and you got associated with Eric, and then you put out
Yeah.
Magnificent Mobility, and then I came along into this foray. I don't know. When did you move down?
We met in 05.
Was it 05?
We released Magnificent Mobility in 06, and that's when you were like, oh, I think we need more upper body stuff in that.
Right.
Let's create our own thing.
So we did the Inside Out Ultimate Upper Body Warm Up.
Yes.
But see, that's not an IFAST thing. That's just sort of like that's sort of like how you and I started working
Yes.
together. And then but so tell them what you were doing, because
Yes.
you were working your ass off,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah, so essentially what I did to get down here, because I was working in Fort Wayne,
Right.
wasn't loving anything about Fort Wayne, if we're being honest, and decided that, yeah, yeah, right.
I grew up in the Fort Wayne area.
Yes,
Come on,
I
man.
know, sorry, man. But got down here, and I just knew, like, I had to get out of that situation and get closer to my friends, my wife's family. So we moved down here, and yeah, started working in-home. And a lot of people don't know, but this is how desperate I was. The first client that I took, we were living in Pendleton at the time. We were living with Jess's parents as our condo got ready.
Right.
And I had to take my first client at 4:55 a.m.
I've done that.
at Wolf Run. Well, that's about...
At Wolf Run?
Yes.
So that's the entire extreme. So for people that don't know, Pendleton is like the extreme northeast. It's even
Yes.
outside of Indianapolis.
Yes.
And Wolf Run is at the extreme northwest.
Yes.
Out in the boonies.
Yes.
Oh
I was
my
up
goodness.
at 3:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
Out the door at 4:15, 4:20 to get to that first client at 4:55.
That's tough.
Yes. So that's how desperate I was. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to get out of there.
Right.
So yeah, that was like 3 years though. Like, luckily I didn't train that early, but I trained 6 a.m. clients for
Right.
3 years straight.
And did you do the split shift kind
Split
of a thing?
shift,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You always get the early and the late, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the cool thing about the middle of the day was, like, that's when I did the side hustle. Like, that's when I was writing articles or creating products and, you know, just generating content before generating content was such a thing.
Right.
That's what I was
Pre-kiddos.
doing. Yes.
Pre-kiddos.
Yes.
That's kind of a big deal too.
Yes.
We'll eventually talk about how that works, but.
Yes.
But okay, so that's and then as we evolved as a partnership, it just became like you sort of hit critical mass.
Yes.
And I was training people out of my house, so I had to
Yes.
build a house in a suburb of Indy, and I built an 1,100 square foot gym, which you had been there.
Yeah.
It's the best gym in Westfield, Indiana.
Yes.
Right, and working out of there, and I sort of hit that impasse too, because what I was doing is I was working in the clinic,
Yes.
and then at nighttime I would come home and train clients, and then I had a day off in the middle of the week where I would train clients all day, and then I would train clients on Saturdays. So
Yeah.
literally I was doing
6
this
days a week, man.
6 days a week for 16 years.
It's crazy.
Right. Well, it's a lot of reps though. So
Yeah,
think about that.
absolutely.
It's like yeah, you hate every minute of that.
Yeah.
You know, getting up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning is a really horrible thing to do for 16 years.
Right.
But you certainly get a lot of reps and you get a lot of learning. that I think, you talk about paying your dues kind of a thing.
Yes.
And it's always about the reps, as long as they're good reps and you're paying attention.
Absolutely.
And so we sort of hit a critical mass at the same time when we started having this conversation. It's like, you know what, we gotta do something.
Yeah, I remember March of '08.
Yeah.
We were sitting in your office upstairs,
Yeah.
above
the gym.
above the best gym in Westfield,
Above the best gym in Westfield.
and just knew, like, look, I was tired of driving around. I still love the content creation piece, and I wanted to keep that, but I also knew, like, this was not a sustainable lifestyle for me, and I don't think it was for you either. And
No.
I just clearly remember us thinking to ourselves, like, you know, maybe we're wrong, but like, I feel like we're pretty good at this, and we could be successful working together.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think about a week later, we found somebody and started looking around. And
Literally, yeah. And we looked at a bunch of places, and then we found the home for IFAST 1.0, which is literally in the same building that we're in right now, at the extreme opposite end, and about half the size.
Yep.
And tell the story of what it actually was. What it actually was before we moved in. This is awesome.
So imagine a 2,200 square foot rectangle, right? And it's very deep, kind of narrow. But in the front, it was unique because mostly it's just like open space at the back. But at the front, it's like this very distinct like office area, and it looks professional. And so we walk in there, but there's like these like cut off like closed circuit cameras. I'm like, what's going on here? And the landlord is like, oh yeah, this used to be an underground casino. So until they got raided and kicked out. So
right, our luck.
Yeah.
Our luck has got a great deal.
We did.
Per square foot. I think we only paid like $7 a square foot in the initial outlay. So it worked perfectly. It was clean. We had a weird kind of I don't know what you call it, like the sealed floor kind of thing, and we just threw down some mats and a bunch of homemade platforms. And so here's an interesting thing that a lot of business people don't think. They think they need to like take out loans.
Yes.
or lay down a lot of money. And literally, because I had a gym in my home, you had a gym in your garage.
Yep, 1-car garage.
Right. And so I think our initial outlay, like as an investment, was maybe a couple of grand to buy a couple of extra racks and a couple of pieces of equipment. Because what we did is we literally just moved all the equipment out of my house, moved all the equipment out of your garage.
Yep.
And then literally opened the doors.
Yeah.
So our initial financial outlay was very, very small.
Yeah, and I think people are shocked by that because then again now it's like in this social media era, everybody's like, oh, look at this 20,000 square foot, and I got every imaginable rack and gadget. Like, man, that's great, but we started with 3 platforms that had 3 racks. We had 1 empty platform. We had a prowler. We had a 24 kilo kettlebell, not a rack of kettlebells, a 24 kilo and a prowler.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, the Airdyne was gold, and we got it off Craigslist for $200.
Yes.
And we serviced the hell out of that thing for 3 or 4 years until we actually bought a real one.
Yeah, we just made it work. We made it work. We got some matting, some horse matting and things like that. And we actually used to do our assessments out in the open. So we actually had an open space where unfortunately, because of the way that we were doing things way back then, we had people that were, taking off shirts and stuff like that, and literally wide out in the open, and we had 1 bathroom for the whole place, and it worked. It worked for actually almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And then once again you sort of hit critical mass, and then we start looking.
Yep.
For another place, and I don't know if I would say lucky, because it's unfortunate.
Yes.
Where we are now used to be a very large dance studio, and the owner passed away, and our landlord said, hey, I got a space.
Yeah.
And so we literally moved into what is now almost 5,000 square feet, but it was initially peach.
Yes.
Peach
the colors needed some work.
Right.
But yeah, and I think one of the things that happened too was really 2 things. So number 1, we hit critical mass in that space.
That's
I remember, so you would work Saturdays because you were still in the clinic then.
Yep.
So you would work Saturdays, but I would always come in and train Saturdays, and I'd have Justin and I would work out together, and I just remember there was a Saturday, and it's like we were stepping all over each other.
Yeah.
So
it was
that,
close. It was close. As they said.
Yeah. And then the second piece was, I think, our vision or our model. I don't want to say our model, but our vision definitely evolved. We wanted to be able to do more, right? So whether it was large group stuff, whether it was athletic development, and sport performance, because we didn't have any turf, we didn't have open space, so we're slave to
Right.
the weather. And
Right.
so I think it was perfect timing because we could move into this space. The other space was empty,
Right.
it was dirt. So we got to kind of build it out the
Right.
way that we wanted. And
Right.
so that really set us up for kind of IFAST 2.0
Yeah.
as we deemed it then.
Yeah. Yeah. Because and again, just anticipating the fact that I wasn't going to be in the clinic forever. From
Yep.
my perspective, we needed to have, granted, it's not always the most important thing, but we needed to have a space that actually looked a little bit more professional.
Yep.
And so when we talk about the purple room now, which is where we are right now, this became this ideal thing because I have a total privacy here. So the physical therapy is within the facility, and you can occasionally hear somebody drop a barbell or something like that. But I do have my controlled space here. We've got a huge training hall. We've got the huge space for the turf, and now everything is sort of like machine-like. But I feel that we're moving towards that critical mass again. And then so we have Surgeility,
Yes.
the Surgeility space up in Westville where I used to live.
Yep.
And so talk about that a little bit because that's sort of like a 2.5.
Yeah, it kind of was something that just happened to come up because one of the gentlemen that was training here at the time, John Bush, who a guy I think the world of and a very high quality goalkeeper for 20 plus years.
Yeah,
20 plus years, came to us and said, hey, I'm getting ready and I'm going to start working out of this facility. I think you should meet this guy. And so I met Chris McGrath, who's the owner at Surgeility, and he said, look, we were kind of looking to maybe bring in a franchise or something like that, but you guys are so plugged in to the soccer community already here. We would love to have you come in and do more of this. So it was really fun because I think of a lot of what we do in verticals. So, you got to be really good at one vertical, right? And I feel like we're pretty proven in the soccer community between working with the Indy 11 and all the MLS people, whether it's Chad Marshall, Danny O'Rourke, Eric Zavaleta, we could go on and on, but we're a proven product there and we've got a system that works. So to go in there and then be able to take that system and apply it to kids as young as 9 and 10 and give them a movement base, that's something that I just felt like we had to jump on.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect complement, and this is one of the things. If we can talk about just the business structure for a minute, because I think this is kind of important, especially for small business owners. Is this is the kind of thing that I think is the way for the smaller businesses to grow that still provides service as their primary offering, because we have to depend on each other. So Surgeility is a soccer-based facility, but we provide strength conditioning, athletic development concepts, et cetera. So these are the perfect complements. Rather than being in competition with one another, we are complementary. And so I think that all small businesses need to start looking at this from a survival standpoint, because there are so many things that are now available online that people are sort of gravitating towards that, but we still have this massive ability to provide the personalized services. But for us to stay afloat, to stay alive, and to thrive, I think that small businesses, and we have associations with a lot of people now that provide referrals back and forth and so on and so forth. But I think that a lot of small businesses don't really see that as how powerful it really is.
Yes. Because
the relationships that you capture, and again, you just find those non-competing professionals that hey, that would be a really nice compliment for me.
Sure.
So when we reach out to other medical professionals, we get referrals from other physical therapists and such, but we have physicians, we have dentists, we have eye doctors, we have podiatrists, we have nutritionists, we have massage therapists, etc. That we all associate with. Let's put a shout out to the recovery room as well. So all of those people are I consider them just part of our organization, if you will.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of small businesses really need to consider this as they develop and as they grow. It's like that's a huge part of the existence. How can we stay in business for 11 years by ourselves? I don't think it's possible.
Yeah. Well, and it just makes your life so much easier, because at some point you realize, there's a lot of stuff to learn. I can't learn everything about everything. So, maybe you don't want to, my skill set isn't best for this person, or this person likes hands-on therapy. Well, great, we'll send them to Jenny.
Right.
Or they need just more forced recovery. Great, we'll send them to the recovery room. Like you have this network of specialists,
Right.
or like you said,
Right.
other providers that we can talk to
Right.
and have interactions with, and it gives better outcomes.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's about the person or the athlete.
Right. From a medical perspective, I kind of look at it as a case management situation. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
who do you need? How can we help you? And then that just makes us a better client,
For sure.
right? I mean, they're much happier. They're satisfied. We always work with good people, thankfully. We haven't had any issues in that regard. We always find really, really good professionals. And so I think that's just a big, big part of it. But like I said, I think that a lot of small businesses really need to consider the relationships that they're making or not making in regards to their ability to grow their business and not just survive, but like I said, to thrive.
Well, I think it just makes things stronger too, right?
Right.
So like one relationship that I come back to as well is Joey. You know, I mean, what a great guy to be
You should
partnered
express who that is.
with. Yeah, so Joey Burton is the skills coach for NBA professionals, Euro League players, college, high school. Basically, if you want to get better at basketball in this area, you need to see Joey. And so just that relationship, you know, people could say, well, if it's just dollars, right, they can spend money with Joey or they can spend money with me. Or they could spend money with both of us and we could have this amazing product that you put out there, right? And so I think too often people get caught up in this like zero-sum game.
Right.
Somebody wins, somebody loses.
Right.
And that's not how it works in most cases.
Right. It's about help. Right?
Yes.
It's like, how can I help you?
Yep.
It's like, if we can do something that, let's just use Joey as the example, it's like that we can do something that enhances the physiology of your player that allows him to do the thing that you actually want him to do. And I always say this about golfers too, because we worked with a lot of golfers over our history, is that, you know, a swing coach knows golf better than anybody, but they may not know the physiology that underlies it, and so that's our job. So we restore the physiology that allows them to be the better coach, and now you have an athlete that can actually execute, and so that becomes the big difference. But again, you know, we go back to the relationships. That's where all of this kind of comes from.
You know what that reminds me of? Years ago, you probably remember this as I get into it, but remember Rob Barber?
Of course.
Baseball coach?
Yes.
And so his son is, I mean, this is a high quality baseball coach, and he's trying to tell his son, well, I think it was get your elbow up. And so he's giving him the right cue, and his son is trying, but he like biomechanically couldn't get there. So you go in, you work a little bit of magic, and all of a sudden, like,
I still have this. I still have the before
and
after videos, and it's remarkable.
It's just such a massive impact because there it's like he was giving the right cues. He was
Absolutely.
trying to do the right things. Everything that he saw, he was trying to fix, but the child couldn't do it because he didn't have the physical capacity to.
Correct. It just makes a great coach even better.
Yes.
When you can help in that perspective.
For sure.
Yeah. So, where do we go from here? So we've sort of established ourselves, obviously, you know, in that first year. What do you think was the biggest change before we moved into this space? What do you think was the biggest change that we made from an evolutionary standpoint, like from a business perspective? Because you and I are both technicians,
right?
So we're like the classic E-Myth, like you know, kind of a thing. Like we're both technicians, and then you had to take on, because of my schedule being the way it was in the clinic, and then you having the opportunity to actually be here more often. Where do you think the biggest change was in that evolution from a business perspective? Because I think for me it's the hardest thing to understand, but it sort of fell on your shoulders. You didn't really have a choice. I mean, it was forced upon you, and you've done a great job with that. So talk about that.
So like business wise, what did we do?
So from an impact standpoint, I mean, obviously we've been around for 11 years. It's like you don't pull that off by accident, and so I think it has fallen to you to evolve that. Where did we do the right thing? That we're here having this conversation 11 years after the fact, when we both kind of suck at business.
So here's the one thing that people talk a lot about now, but I don't think it was being talked as much about then, was just this like unparalleled focus on quality. Like, I don't think anybody gave more time and attention into writing programs, into coaching clients. Like, now it's, oh, you have to put yourself at a higher price point and this and that. But we naturally kind of did that because we were a more specialized service.
Right.
So that alone makes you a little bit more recession proof.
Right.
The second your lowest price, get it on Groupon for $20, like you put yourself in that bin of, hey, this is the kind of consumer that I'm catering to, right? It's like, I want the deal. And when the deal's done, I'm going to go to the next place that's offering a deal. There's no brand loyalty versus us. We're at a higher price point.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit more educated consumer. They're a little bit more recession proof. So, when the bottom falls out, like it literally did when we opened our business, right? 2008, worst time ever to open a business.
Perfect time.
But, we catered to a little bit more affluent, a little bit more educated clientele, and they were looking for a higher level service. So I don't know if it's anything that we did just amazingly well. It was the fact that, we were just different.
Right.
And we agreed early on, right? We don't want to do the same thing. We don't want to be $59 a month, Gold's Gym, come in and train.
Right.
So when we opened, we had a $59 a month open gym thing.
Yeah.
And that was literally the first contract or membership agreement we got rid of because...
Absolutely. Yeah, it just didn't fit. It just didn't fit.
You don't want the person that's in there just doing curls for an hour.
Right.
We wanted to have some level of influence on their program.
Right. And I think that the one consistency within our clientele is that they come in with purpose.
Yes.
At every level. So you think about an athlete, and it's I think the athlete is the obvious one, right? Because they come in and say, well, I want to run fast, jump high, whatever. And so it's a little bit easier to identify that. But I think that if you go into the gym at any time of day, whether it be the morning crew or the afternoon kids or the evening adult people that come in, they're all coming in with purpose. So and as we have a tendency to say, if you want to get there, you've got to come here. And so Rick, Big Rick, he's a mountain climber.
Yeah.
It's like, so he comes in to train to be better at that. And so it doesn't matter whether we're talking about our early morning retirees that would come in, and they come in and they're coming in with purpose. They say, I need to be able to do this. I want to play with my grandkids. I want to be able to get up and down off the floor forever. I want to be able to garden. I want to be able to do whatever they want to do. And so they come in with purpose. And so while they get excited about a personal record on their trap bar deadlift, ultimately it becomes like, oh, guess what?
So bad.
It's like everything else in my life is now effortless.
Yeah.
And so we've been very lucky in that respect.
And I think that's one of the coolest things is when you start to look at it through that lens, it's like, oh yeah, all the stuff that we do in here is cool, but it's the stories that you get from the weekend, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I'm still playing rec league softball at mid 50s or 60s, or I don't have any knee pain when I garden. Like, it's not as maybe exciting as like, oh, I scored 20 points, but it's still cool to them, right? And it comes down to understanding their vision for themselves and helping them clarify that, and then understanding how the gym can help them achieve those goals that they have.
And I think that's why you see the rapport. So, and people probably can't picture this, but literally we have people that don't know who our professional athletes are.
Oh yeah.
And so so they just think that they're just the big kid that comes in. And, it's like I think back when Dwayne Allen used to train here, and he would just come in and just be hugging like all the it's like they had no idea who he was. He was just a nice boy that comes in. He's big and strong, but they had no idea who he was, and so that was one of those wonderful things, but they get along because they're all training with purpose, and so they saw Dwayne behaving a certain way, and then Dwayne sees them behaving a certain way. So there's like this instant sharing and instant rapport, which I think has been really cool.
Well, and people would naturally say, well, what do you do when so and so's in the gym, but they don't care? Like they know, like these professional athletes. Like I remember when Roy was here, he'd be like, man, that chick's getting on it. Like some of our Gen Pop clients are like so into their workouts.
Absolutely.
I can't remember her name now, but the lady that used to put on, she had like the headband and she would just push the prowler end to end of the building. And Roy was looking at her one day, he's like, man, that chick's like getting on it. Yeah. And so like that inspired him. He's like, I gotta
it's like when you can inspire a professional athlete, then you got to put it on. So that's pretty cool. So this has been good. So this is how we started. This is where we are, and then I think that we'll keep doing this, but I think that we'll just let this thing sort of evolve organically.
I love it.
Because I think that we have a lot of information to offer after 11 years of business, and then obviously continuing on. But hopefully this inspires some questions about the hows and the whys and such. We've got a lot of people that have been through our organization as interns and employees that are now at really, really high levels. So I think that's going to be a really important topic to talk about as to how we develop people, because we're not just about the financial. Of course, we want to be about the financial because it keeps us alive. But the reality is we've always had great people here, great coaches, and our evolution has trickled down, if you will, into a lot of other people's capabilities as a professional. And so it's been really fascinating to see that. So I think that maybe we go there for the next time.
I love that. I love that. And talk about just the evolution, not only how our evolution has continued, but the evolution that has come with the development of the business and how just the education models evolved.
Absolutely, and that's huge. And I think that'll gain a lot of attention, because I think it's something that we need to get better at as an industry, because I think that there's a deficit in education right now, because the model is somewhat broken and repetitive and lackluster. It's become a financially it's become and I understand I'm a capitalist. I want to make some money too, but the reality is it seems to be more dollar driven than quality driven. And so I think that we've made efforts to step up that game, but I think it's worthy of an open discussion in that regard too. So I think that those are the directions that we'll probably take this thing, if that's cool with you.
I'm totally cool with that.
Awesome. So we'll sign off for now, and be looking for the next one. We'll probably do this week to week if we can, as long as we're able to block out the time. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, or however your media is working today, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.